Welcome to the Wellness Revolution podcast, the radio show all about wellness in your mind, body, spirit, personal growth, sex, and relationships. Stay tuned for weekly interviews featuring guests that have achieved physical, mental, and spiritual health in their lives. If you'd like to have access to our entire back catalog, visit drveronica.com for instant access. And here is your host, Dr. Veronica.
Thanks again for joining me for Dr. Veronica's Wellness Revolution. Today is going to be something that's near and dear to us. This is something that we all see when we look at people. And my husband is obsessed with this. We're talking about teeth. And I say my husband is obsessed because he's always looking at how white somebody's teeth are and how good somebody's teeth look. And so let me just introduce to you Dr. Al Dananberg, who is a functional, I'm going to call him a functional dentist. So you're saying, well, what's a functional dentist? He helps people who feel like their dentists have failed them. And you know what? In the United States today, the field of dentistry is failing a lot of us. So I'm going to give you a little bit about the background of my story with dental health. So I grew up, I went to the dentist regularly. I've been a healthy person and I never had any cavities or anything. Then I get to medical school and go through training. I go to the dentist, I'm good. Maybe I have one cavity by this point in time. I'm in my medical training. I have 2 kids. I miss going to the dentist for a few years. I go in, they tell me I have 5 cavities. Now I feel nothing. I haven't felt anything, but I'm horrified, as you would be, because I went from having these beautiful teeth, beautiful mouth, no cavities, to 5. And I felt, okay, guilty and everything like that. Now, there's several things that happened to me that might account for those cavities. Yeah, I went through medical school, you're eating funny and everything like that. Yeah, I had kids and all those hormonal changes. Yeah, I've been shut up because I've been, there's a lot of things that could happen that could explain this. But let me just tell you, during these times where I was having these cavities in my mouth, I wasn't having any pain or symptoms or anything like that. I didn't go to the dentist because I was having a problem. I went because I was going for my checkup and I hadn't been for a few years. And I was like, here we go. So they find all this, they start drilling and blah, blah, blah. Well, what ends up happening down the line is one of those teeth ends up painful and a problem. And I end up having a root canal and yada, yada, yada. It was problem. It ends up being extracted and then I end up getting an implant, blah, 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 blah. So, which was a big ordeal, very traumatic and lots of money. Oh my God, lots of money. Okay. And let me just tell you when I had this problem where I was going through this implant and all this other type of stuff, my marriage fell apart. It was a very stressful and hard time in my life. I was also training and running a marathon. My tooth hurt like hell. It was just everything that could come together that makes your body fall apart. It was happening in my mouth in this one particular spot. So once I had that done, then I said, okay, well, I can't have this happen again. I'm going to stay close to the dentist and go. So I go to the dentist. And I wasn't necessarily having symptoms or anything like that. Sometime I had a problem with my wisdom teeth as they were pushing up some. There was a little discomfort. And so a guy decides that he's going to extract one of my wisdom teeth. He can't get it out of my mouth. He leaves part of it in my jaw. Forgot to tell you about that piece of it. And I wished I should just left a little tiny bit of discomfort I had because it was pushing through after this guy tried to extract it, it was a nightmare. So I left it there and I wasn't going to do anything like it because I wasn't having symptoms. Yet when the x-ray came along, you could see the stuff going on there. I wasn't having symptoms though. So I said, I'm not doing anything. And this was a horrible experience, right? So I go to my routine dentist and, she would start finding things on me, even though I wasn't having any symptoms. And so she's like, you got some decay, you have this, not having any symptoms, but good person that I am, diligent person I am about my health. She says, I got decay, I need something done. I'm going to go get it done, right? Makes sense. Not having any symptoms, any problems. Well, I just got tired of it. I said, there's got to be another way. I ain't getting any more dental work. I'm not. So the last time I went in, she said, there's some decay right there under that cap that you have there. Well, what do I have to do about this? Well, I got to take off the cap and I got to do the decay and I got to drill and then we need to make a new crown and blah, 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 blah. And that'll be $2,500. Now, anyway, she had told me this and I was like, all right, I guess this is what I have to do. I guess, but I wasn't convinced. Something was eating at me, literally. Something was eating at me and telling me, I know there's another way. I don't even feel anything. So why am I going to have my mouth drilled when you see a little shadow on the x-ray? And there's got to be another way. And so I went searching. Now here I am, functional medicine doctor in the circle, looking at all these discussions, including with a gentleman who is what we'll call Dr. Al Dananberg, a functional dentist, integrative, periodontist, yada, 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 who I used to read his interesting posts because he's very knowledgeable. And I said, wait 1 second. After I'm reading this, when I found there was another way to deal, what I needed to understand about me, and there was another way to deal with my dental issues other than drilling, especially because these are x-ray findings. I was just like, oh my God, I'm upset because I feel like I have stuff in my mouth that could be causing other symptoms in my body I should have never had. And I was just a bank, cha-ching, cha-ching to everybody. I'm wised up and said there's got to be another way. So I want people to know another way to deal with their teeth other than getting drilled and getting more and more miserable, getting their jaws falling apart. I mean, my gums are fine. I had one dentist who I'd go in, he'd clean me all the time. He said, you got beautiful teeth. You got beautiful teeth. I switched. And then all of a sudden my teeth weren't so beautiful. There was decay. So now I don't trust anybody. So I said, okay, I'm going to that guy. Y'all go to those Facebook groups and listen to people that don't know nothing. I'm in Facebook groups where I got a bunch of brilliant people and I bring them on my show. So Dr. Al Dananberg, dentist, periodontist, integrative specialist, teaching the rest of dentists how to do dentistry differently. Welcome to the Wellness Revolution.
Wow. What an introduction. Oh my God. All right. So, I need to tell you right up front, I can't diagnose by Skype or Zoom or whatever, but we need to talk. I mean, we need to talk about what's really going on. And the problems in your mouth are a reflection of your body. And it's not that the mouth has infection and it's going into your body. It's more that something is happening in your body and it's affecting your mouth. And once it affects your mouth, then a terrible cycle starts to begin. And what happens in the mouth affects the body, and what's happening in the body affects the mouth. And it just goes on and on. Yeah, go ahead.
So when I started really reading about this, and I hadn't read a lot about teeth, and when we go through medical school, we get such rudimentary about teeth. And I knew that it reflected on the rest of the body and could cause all kinds of problems. But it never dawned on me when I had, and I mean, I've had some problems at particular times, but a lot of it, I'll tell you, was asymptomatic, something somebody saw on an x-ray. And I started reading, and I probably could have been managed more conservatively, especially somebody like me who I'm doing particular protocols on my body and different supplements, but it might have told you something about my nutritional state. I looked and said, I need more of this. Just reading it, I said, I know I need more of this and that. Just evaluating was easy for me to kind of evaluate and say where I was falling short after I started knowing some of the background. Now, it might not be so easy for people who don't have any medical background to do it. So where should people start? Let's talk about the adult having dental problems. Where should they start?
Okay. First of all, if you're having a dental problem, you don't necessarily have to know it, because like you experienced, dental decay and gum disease doesn't have to hurt. And it doesn't have to show itself, obviously, until much more of the disease manifests itself. That's the problem. Where you start is actually way, way back. And that has to do with eating a nutrient-dense anti-inflammatory diet. Okay, now you have the problem, I understand. And if you have the problem, eating a nutrient-dense anti-inflammatory diet is not going to solve your problem, unfortunately. It's going to be there to help later on. Right now, it's like you have a splinter in your finger. You know, if you have a splinter in your finger, it's obvious, it hurts, it's sore. You know what to do. I don't even have to tell you, but I will. You'll take a pair of tweezers, you'll remove the splinter, and the skin will heal. You can take 1,000,000 antibiotics. You can be holistic. You can do all kinds of herbs. But if you don't remove the splinter, it stays sore, it festers, and it will not heal. You take the splinter out, you don't do anything else other than maybe you're going to clean your finger, it's fine, it heals. The splinter in the mouth causing gum disease is generally bacteria that has accumulated that is out of balance. Your mouth is loaded with bacteria. Most of the bacteria is healthy. Some of it is not, but it's in balance. It's supposed to be in balance. As a matter of fact, if you remove some pathogenic bacteria, it'll get even more diseased because the pathogenic bacteria is in balance with the healthy bacteria. And that goes back centuries and centuries. As a matter of fact, researchers have taken DNA samples of prehistoric skeletal remains from 20 to 10,000 years ago. And they can identify the bacteria that was in existence in those days. And it's the same as it is today. But those skeletons did not have dental decay or gum disease because you could see that on the teeth or in the bone, because the bacteria were in balance. Dental plaque is healthy generally, but when we eat the wrong foods and we're stressed and we have oxidative stress from running marathons every week, young lady, that can affect...
I stopped that.
I know. Oh, good. That can affect the gut bacteria. Then the gut bacteria affects the mouth bacteria and it goes out of balance, which is called dysbiosis. And then once it's out of balance, all hell breaks loose. So you can get gum disease, you can get tooth decay. So the secret is to balance the bacteria in your gut. And the way to do that is eat nutrient-dense anti-inflammatory foods and control stress and exercise effectively and sleep effectively, restoratively. All these things have an effect on the bacteria in your body. And this is what creates chronic disease in all of us. We're a society with chronic disease that is damaging the quality of our life. Once we get to 30 or 40 years old, we're going downhill. Our primal ancestors that lived 70, 80 years old didn't even have chronic disease. They just dropped dead. Primal societies today that eat a healthy diet stay strong and healthy, and then their body breaks down and they die in a few days or weeks. But they don't have chronic disease for decades. We do, and it's because of our lifestyle. Okay, so now you went to the dentist. A person goes to the dentist, and they find that their dentist is telling them, because of an x-ray, you have some decay. It doesn't hurt, but you have some decay. What do you do? Well, a lot of dentists are going to say, we're going to drill and fill and eventually bill you something because of the procedure. Now, that's traditional dentistry. That may be necessary, but there's another way. The other way is, first of all, to make sure your mouth is clean. I'm not saying antibacterial clean. You don't want to use mouthwashes to kill all the natural bacteria. You want to be able to clean your mouth to remove the excess plaque that is not healthy. You want to eat foods that are going to help nutritionally remineralize your teeth. Your mouth always has the ability, because of healthy plaque, to change the acidity around the tooth and remineralize the tooth, reduce and eliminate decay. So you need to eat foods that are high in trace minerals. These are, for example, seaweeds and green leafy vegetables. These are the things that will help. It will not solve the problem, but it will help. Once the dentist looks at your mouth and he sees maybe early decay and you change your diet, you can naturally remineralize your teeth. And that's one of the things you can do in the early stages. If you have gum infection where you have some bleeding or bad odors in your mouth that are from the gum tissues, if you start changing your diet and cleaning your mouth appropriately, you can reverse this disease. If there's deep tartar under the gum, just like the splinter in your finger that I explained, that can be removed by a good hygienist that understands how to do it properly, non-surgically, then it sets you up to be healthy again. And then when you have this healthier diet, you can prevent this disease from coming back. Now, let's say you've gone a little bit further and the disease is more progressive. It's breaking down through the enamel of the tooth, and it's going into some of the structures of the tooth that are involved with the nerve or the pulp. That gets pretty hairy because this is a situation where it's going to progress. You can't do some kind of an herbal product that's going to change it. Interestingly enough, and there was just a paper that was just published 2017, early 2017,
wow.
Well, early 2017, right now, that talked about some research that's being done in England, which is very exciting. They're using certain types of enzymes on cotton pellets that they're putting into decayed areas. And it's creating stem cells to come from the pulp, the nerve of the tooth, into the decayed area. And it is re-mineralizing the tooth. It's regrowing new dentin. You can never grow enamel, but it's growing new dentin. Fascinating stuff. It's not here yet, but that is really fascinating. There are some chemicals that you can put that will kill the bacteria and help stop the decay, but these chemicals are caustic to the body. I don't necessarily recommend them, but there are chemicals that you can be putting in. Unfortunately, when there's decay, especially under a cap, and it's hidden, it's going to continue to grow and it's going to continue to damage the tooth. Unfortunately, that's a situation where the crown has to be removed, the decay has to be scooped out, and then the tooth has to be re-prepared for another cap or something. These are procedures that need to be done when the disease is so far advanced. But there are ways to prevent that or remineralize or protect the tooth in its early stages. Another factor that can damage a tooth is gritting and grinding your teeth. I'm getting the sense that you have a type A personality. I'm not sure, but I think you do. So you probably grit and grind your teeth. Or most people that are aggressive or they're stressed will grit and grind their teeth. Not all the time, mainly when they sleep at night. But when you grit or grind your teeth, you wiggle the tooth. And when you wiggle the tooth, you wiggle the bone, and you can set up an environment where the bone breaks down and it is more susceptible to gum disease as well as tooth decay. So if you are a grinder, there are some ways to help protect the grinding. You can get a bite guard that is relatively inexpensive from the drugstore. You can go to a dentist and they can make a customized bite guard for you. If the teeth are bumping too hard because of an anatomical defect or maybe a tooth that was filled improperly that's not hitting properly, a good dentist that knows what they're doing can correct that. There are different dentists out there. You know, we're all trained by the same dental societies or whatever, dental schools, but we have become more holistic or biological after we've gotten out of dental school. And there are organizations where your listeners could actually go to and put in their zip code, and they can find a holistic dentist or a biological dentist. And there's a biomimetic dentistry, which is a form of dentistry where they use filling materials that are more gentle to the tooth. They don't expand like metals. They don't contract like composites. And there are ways to correct some of the problems that are more advanced. But the important thing is to get a handle on it before it happens, or if it's in its early stages, and reverse the whole process. Does that make sense?
Okay, yes. Now, most people, when they've gotten along in life, before you realize there's another way, all this stuff has happened. Because I'm just personally suspicious that a lot of the things that happened to me could have been managed another way, but I wasn't told ever. And it's not what we're taught it's not what dentists are taught in dental school, just like we expect our doctors to know about nutrition and supplements and all that. We're just not taught that in medical school. You have to go get extra training. So let's step back a little bit, because every day people clean their teeth, most of them. And I started reading about teeth cleaning and realizing that maybe the way we're cleaning our teeth is not the best way to clean the teeth. So first, let's talk about daily or a regimen of teeth cleaning that is holistic and works for maintaining the teeth.
Perfect. So I don't believe in chemicals and toxic substances to put in my mouth or to put on my skin, and certainly not to eat. So what I would recommend, and it is very simple, I like an electric toothbrush because it is more efficient. I'm lazy, so an electric toothbrush is easier for me. If you're going to use a hand toothbrush, you want one with softer bristles. Most of the bristles today are soft bristle brushes. And I would take the toothbrush and have two little containers in your bathroom. One is going to have coconut oil, and the other is going to have baking soda. Now, coconut oil is solid at room temperature. You can take your toothbrush and dab it into the coconut oil, and then dab it into the baking soda, not baking powder, baking soda. And that you can use as a toothpaste. Now, what the benefit of coconut oil is, it's antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal to an extent. It's not going to kill everything. It's just going to get a more homeostatic or balanced level of bacteria in your mouth. Great stuff. The baking soda tends to neutralize acids in your mouth, and it has somewhat of a whitening effect, and it is the least abrasive natural substance you can put in your mouth. Every toothpaste on the market has more abrasiveness than just baking soda. So not a problem. So you take the toothbrush, dip it in the coconut oil, dip it in the baking soda, and then put it in the area of your mouth. Now you want to put it where the gum meets the tooth. That's where all the bacteria is. Now let's think about, for example, imagine where the wall in a room meets the floor. There's a crack where the wall meets the floor. That crevice will accumulate all the dust that is in the room. So if you want to clean that crevice, you take maybe a scrub brush and put it into that crevice at a 45-degree angle, move it horizontally, and you'll scrub the dirt and the dust out. So you want to take the toothbrush into the gum space at a 45-degree angle and clean horizontally all around your mouth, all the cheek side and the tongue side, roof side of your teeth. That's going to remove the excess bacteria, plaque. You're not going to eliminate the plaque because you don't want to. You don't want to kill the plaque because that's what maintains the proper acid around the tooth. It also maintains the minerals that remineralize the tooth. And it also has a lot of other constituents that kill a lot of the bad stuff. So healthy plaque is important.
Okay, so we've all been taught that plaque is bad. And
I know that.
They say you have plaque, and they're like, you have plaque. And you feel like, oh my God, I have plaque.
So there is healthy plaque and there is pathogenic plaque. Most of us have pathogenic plaque because we don't know what we're doing. We're eating all the wrong foods that are making the bacteria in the mouth overgrow with the bad stuff. And now our plaque is not healthy. But our primal ancestors had very healthy plaque. There's some great studies. If we have time, I want to tell you a study that was phenomenal. It was published in 2009. But let me just go on how to clean your mouth. So you're going to clean your mouth with this brush at a 45-degree angle in the gum surface on the cheek side and the tongue side, on the bottom and on the top. Now you have to clean between the teeth. Everybody talks about dental floss. Probably not so effective. There are better ways to clean between the teeth. And one better way is a little tiny brush that cleans between the teeth. It's very, very tiny. It looks like a toothpick, but it's not. Toothpicks are not good. But this has many, many microfibers. So when you clean between the teeth, there's a lot of surface area and it cleans and it feels good.
What is the brush called, and where do we get something
absolutely.
like
So there's a company called Gum, G-U-M, and they make this brush and it's called a soft pick. And they make two different sizes, and you use it between the teeth. So you go between the teeth, back and forth, scrubbing it. You need to feel it at the gum line between every tooth. If you do that, brushing, like I said, with the toothbrush, and use the soft picks, then you can use the floss just to break through the contacts. If maybe a piece of meat or something is stuck, that's fine. Then you want to take a spoon, invert it, put it on the back of your tongue, as far back as you can without gagging. You'll have to experiment, but you will gag once or twice. And then press the inverted spoon on your tongue and scrape it forward, and do that 3 or 4 times. Now you're going to be removing excess anaerobic bacteria and a lot of food products that are breaking down that will be the culprit of 90% of the culprit of bad breath. So if you do that on your tongue and you clean at the gum line with a toothbrush and these little soft picks between the teeth, you're going to do anything and everything that you could possibly do to make your mouth clean. That's important, but it's even more important to eat the right foods. Let me give you an example. Do we have time?
Yes, please.
Great. So there was a study. This is a great study that was done. It was published in the Journal of Periodontology, which is a respectable journal. And this doctor worked with 10 individuals in Switzerland. These individuals, before the study was done, they had the gum bacteria cultured. So the researchers cultured the types of bacteria in the gum, around the gum in the tongue, and then they checked the gum tissues to see how deep the gums were infected and if any bleeding was occurring in the gum tissue. All that was documented. Here's what they did. These 10 individuals could not brush or floss for 30 days. They were living in an environment in Switzerland that replicated what primitive peoples were exposed to 5,700 years ago. They could only eat the foods that they could gather and cook. They were given basic foods, but they had no processed food. So there's no processed grains. There was no processed sugar. They only could eat what was on the land. After 30 days, they had lots of dental plaque in their mouth. The cultures of the dental plaque did not have any virulent bacteria. Amazing. They examined the gum tissues. The gum pockets were more shallow statistically for every one of the 10 individuals, and the bleeding was reduced or non-existent for every one of the 10 individuals. Does that make sense? No, right?
Not from what we were told and learned.
Exactly. So the reason is they ate a nutrient-dense anti-inflammatory diet. It changed the gut bacteria and it changed the mouth bacteria rapidly. And it improved the health of the gum tissue immediately. Even though it caused lots of plaque to form, the plaque was not unhealthy.
Okay, so let's talk about eating and food, because there's so much information out there about diets and what's healthy.
Yes.
And so it's a problem. Yes. Because everybody has their idea and everybody's got a PhD and a
so since I don't have a PhD, then that's better. I'm not a nutritionist, but let me tell you, I look at everything from a different perspective. I look at it from an evolutionary perspective. I'm looking at our species evolving for 2.5 million years with hardly ever signs of dental decay or gum disease, and we know that because of the anatomical remnants that we have. And 10,000 years or so ago, we started to develop disease because of different changes in our diet. And the last 150 years, it's been going crazy. And it's because of the sugars and refined carbohydrates, specifically the grains. So refined processed grains And all added sugars are the killers of our body. It changes our gut bacteria, it creates chronic disease, creates periodontal disease and gum disease. So what is a diet? I'm not talking about diet, I'm talking about a lifestyle of eating, a healthy way of eating. Nutrient-dense foods consist of?
Go ahead. That's what I wanted to get very specific about this.
Very specific. And I have a sheet of 3 pages that I'll send anybody that wants a copy of it in a PDF, not a problem. I can send it by email. So you basically want to eat animal products that are grass-fed or wild-caught. You want to eat all forms of vegetables, all kinds of colors of vegetables, especially the green leafy stuff. You want to eat all kinds of fruits, especially the ones that are dark colored throughout, like the berries. You want to eat nuts and seeds. Here's what you don't want to eat. And it's going to blow everybody away because this is what we eat every day. If you eat 6 meals a day with snacks and everything, you eat it every day. The worst foods are added sugars, any added sugars, not the sugar that's in a banana, but added sugars, and refined processed grains. That means bread, crackers, cookies, pretzels, popcorn, you name it. If it's delicious and you eat it all the time for a snack, it's probably a grain product. Why are the grains bad? Well, the grains are bad because they are inflammatory, because they create inflammation. They are not nutrient dense. They have almost no nutrients other than the chemicals that are added back to fortify these grains. And they have chemicals that are called anti-nutrients that basically absorb minerals in your mouth and excrete the minerals. So the minerals that you need to remineralize your teeth are being absorbed by the chemicals in the grains, the processed grains, and excreted.
Okay, so let me just ask about the grain question, because there's different types of grains, and we get real specific, especially when we're doing functional stuff about the different ones. So when you say a grain, we consider wheat a grain? Yes? Yes. Okay.
Wheat,
now I've read
and barley.
I've read in some that if you're going to eat that, it should be like rye better or sourdough or something like that. What do you say about that?
Here's the science. Here's the science, and you can make a decision. There is a gentleman, he's a physician and a researcher. His name is Dr. Alessio Fasano. I think he's at Harvard now, but I'm not sure. He's the one that did phenomenal research on celiac disease and determined so much about grains. Our human system has evolved phenomenally, but we do not have the enzymes to break down grains, specifically gluten, but there are other grains that we don't know about.
Yes.
And if we cannot break these molecules down, they start to irritate the gut. Not because it creates gas or bloating, although it can. It irritates the gut and it changes the bacteria in the gut. And it makes little microscopic holes form in the gut lining. Once that happens, these proteins that have never been digested completely from the grains leak into the blood system. Our blood system, which is a marvelous army of generals and infantry, start to fight all these unusual proteins, and it creates an immune response, sometimes an autoimmune response, because some of these protein remnants look like the gum tissue or your thyroid or your joint in your arm, and you develop periodontal disease, or you develop hypothyroid Hashimoto's disease, or you develop rheumatoid arthritis because your body's fighting these, multiple sclerosis. There are so many diseases that are autoimmune because of the damage that's occurring in the gut, and one of the causes of the damage are the proteins in grains, specifically gluten, a variety of forms of gluten, but there are so many proteins that we don't even know about. We're just finding this out now. Science is great. We think we know everything today until tomorrow we learn that what we learned today was wrong. So we're constantly educating ourselves. But here's the important point. If you look at evolution, that's the secret. That is where the science meets the road. That is where you know that if our bodies evolved for 2.5 million years and became as perfect as we are today, that's the secret. We don't want to disturb our genetic code. Don't eat the foods that disturb your genetic code. Eat everything that you want that's not going to damage your genetic code. And what are they? They're animal products that are grass-fed, not grain-fed, because when animals eat grains, all the junk gets into their meat and their fat, and we eat it. That's not good. So grass-fed meat, wild-caught fish, the smaller the fish, the better, like salmon, sardines, herring, all the shellfish are great. Lots of vegetables, lots of healthy fruit, especially the dark fruit, and nuts and seeds, and you are good to go.
What about some of the other grains? Like, okay, so there's two that I want you to address specifically: rice, white and brown, and then quinoa, which is now.
Okay, so first of all, quinoa is not a real grain; it's called a pseudo grain, so it's a little different. Grains are seeds of grasses. Pseudo grains are seeds of broad-leafed plants, and they have different chemistry. Rice is probably not so bad, especially white rice. Brown rice, the covering of the brown rice, unfortunately, has these anti-nutrients that wheat has that can create other problems. Some rice has problems because we have found, I have not found, but science has found that some rice is really laden with arsenic. So rice is not necessarily good. And rice is innutritious. It's all carbohydrate. So if you're interested in being a healthier person and you want to eat maybe a moderate to low carbohydrate diet, rice is not necessary. There is no nutrients in any of the grains our body needs. All the nutrients our body needs are in the animal products, the fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds.
Okay.
And I would add other vegetables that you're not familiar with maybe that are even more healthy, like seaweed.
I definitely eat seaweed. I already
absolutely, it's great stuff.
The reason why I asked all these questions is because you're trying to figure out, well, what is the right way to go? You're figuring out what is the right way to go, and how much is too much, or a lot of people. There are some people like I've never been one of those people that is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There are months where I didn't even have bread in the house, and it was like I figured out I was sensitive to wheat, but it was so hard to figure out because I didn't keep it around and eat it all the time, and then I figured out I was sensitive to it. So the question though, and I figured out it was dose dependent, and now I know what the symptoms are. Okay, but how do you know is any amount too much? If you say, okay, you know what, I'm having 1 serving of grain a day, a real serving of grain, is that too much, or is this very individual? Or would you say, if you have decay, you never can have a grain, but if you don't have any, you can have it? We're in this world, you want to feel like, I want something sometime, So when you're talking to somebody where they're having it breakfast, lunch, the most common question my clients ask me is, well, what do I eat for breakfast? And I'm like saying, breakfast is easy. What are you talking about? But in the SAD, the SAD diet, standard American diet, it's cereal, it's muffins, it's bagels, it's grain-based a lot of the time. Even people who are healthy are eating yogurt with granola and stuff like that. It's great.
Yeah, and they're eating yogurt that is sweetened with sugar. So, This is not the way to go. Let me go back and help clarify what you just said. Is everybody an individual? Yes, everybody's an individual. So what affects me won't affect you, but some things are going to affect everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody is affected by grains, gluten. Everybody. Yes. It's a matter of degree. And then you said that, well, you can have a little bit, but not too much. Here's the interesting thing, but the sad thing. It's cumulative. And it's cumulative not over weeks or months or years, it's over decades. So a person that's eating an unhealthy standard American diet, when they're 10 years old, they are healthy. Their waist is so skinny and they're athletic and everything is great. Their skin is clear. I mean, everything is great. Then when they're getting into their 20s or 30s and they're still eating their fast food meals 2 or 3 times a day, and all of a sudden, you know, they've got maybe another inch in their waist. Not a big deal, but you know, why is that happening? And then maybe they get to 30 years old and the gums are bleeding and they have maybe a little joint problem, and all of a sudden they're 40 years old and their blood pressure is a little higher than it ever was, and maybe they just had a blood test and they think maybe your sugar's a little high, and then they're 50 and oh my God, I think I'm getting rheumatoid arthritis, and they get a blood test and it turns out they're type 2 diabetics. And how did this happen all of a sudden? It didn't. It started when they were 10. And the sad thing is, I tell my patients, and I start my lectures basically by saying, if a train was coming at you, would you get off the tracks? The question is such an open question because, yeah, I'll get off the tracks when it's almost on top of me. But that's the problem. If you know a disease is coming down the tracks, if you're smart enough to be aware of it early enough in life, and that's what I want to try to get young people to understand, just make a change then. And I got to tell you, I am 100% eating nutrient-dense anti-inflammatory foods. I've only been doing it for 4 years. I had a stroke when I was 59 years old. I didn't understand. I'm almost 70. I didn't even understand what nutrition, healthy nutrition was until I was 66. So I didn't start eating healthy, but I have changed my entire life. I've lost almost 35 pounds, not without, I've never gone on a diet, I've just eaten healthier. When you eat healthier, your hormones get balanced, your hunger disappears. The craving for bagels, which I always had, disappeared, but it took 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, there's withdrawal when you withdraw from these carbohydrates, but you'll feel great.
Yeah, one of the common surprises that my clients tell me about is that they're not, when I put them on a plan, pretty quickly, they're not hungry. Pretty quickly, they're not hungry like they were before. And the second thing that happens, if they really adhere, yes, is the cravings go away.
That's right.
But what is challenging is figuring out, well, what do I replace it with? And of course, you know, that's the kind of counseling that we give in functional. Here's what you do instead. And,
sure,
you know, try this instead of that. And you make little changes at a time, and then the habits are there and you understand what it is. But it's also how, you know, we went through holidays and people are like, okay, well, it's the holiday and I would like to enjoy myself a little bit and I like this or that. So that's what I'm saying. How much is too much? Can you do a little, whatever? So it's cumulative means, yeah, you can sometime, but for most people, the problem is they've been doing it so crazy that it's, in any amount is problematic. And that sounds like what you're saying, because they've been going crazy all the time because they have all
it is true. But let me just mention an analogy that I know you can relate to. And that is, if a person has an allergic reaction to penicillin, could they say, well, you know, I'm just going to take 1 capsule? What happens?
Yeah.
They may have an anaphylactic shock. Your body is already sensitized to these bad things. If you eat gluten, your body will take 2 to 3 months for the immune reaction to go away. 2 or 3 months from 1 bagel. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So can you do it? You can do anything you want. I mean, people do anything they want. People smoke 2 or 3 packs of cigarettes a day. Some people do. I mean, if they want to do it, they do it, right? I'm not going to change their mind. I can't motivate them. I can only give them information. I can tell them what I've done for myself. I can show them a picture of what I looked like 4 years ago and what I look like today. I can show my athletic exuberance. I mean, I'm healthier today than I've ever been. I have an exercise program. I do all this stuff.
Yay.
I mean, I walk 5 miles a day. I do 10,000 steps a day. I do intensive interval training. I do weight body training. Are
you doing insanity like me?
Huh?
Are you doing insanity like I am?
No. Now the insanity is too much oxidative stress. You can do intensive, high intensity interval training for 10 to 15 minutes once a day, once a week. You can do body weight training for 10 to 15 minutes once a day, twice a week, and you will physically be healthier than if you trained with intensity training. I've seen these crazy people doing that. I mean, it's painful. I don't know. I'm not so sure.
But does it have to be painful? I mean, I'm doing insanity. But I mean, what I'm saying is that I think that, well, you know, now we're all genetic different too, right?
Yes. So, people need more than others.
Different, and I had my 23andMe test. And they said, here's the kind of muscle fiber, blah, blah, blah. But then I have another program that says, here's, based on your genetic code, what is likely to be what you need to do for exercise, what you need to do for...
Let me mention one thing about
differences and all that kind of stuff.
Let me mention one thing. 23andMe is great if you want to learn your genetic code. Does your genetic code matter? The science says that the epigenetics, the things in your environment, 90% of what is in your environment and what you eat controls the expression of your genes. So 10% genetic, but 90% the way you live. So if you have a genetic predisposition to cancer, but you're eating healthy and you're exercising properly, you probably will not get cancer. How do you know? I don't know. You can't know. But if your genes were telling you, let's say, that you have a genetic predisposition to Hashimoto's hypothyroidism, let's say, or rheumatoid arthritis, but you're eating and you're creating a lifestyle that is healthy, you most likely will never get that disease.
Yes. No, but what I'm pointing out is not, I understand about epigenetics, and thank you for educating the audience on that, but I'm talking that, just think about something like the blue zones where people were eating different styles, but not processed food. So what I'm talking about is, what is the correct balance based on your genetic code? You see what I'm saying?
There's
so
another interesting thing.
Are you a Kenyan runner marathoner, or are you a sprinter? Are you which works better? So for instance, a code said for me, you know, eat more protein, eat less fat, eat this amount, you know what I'm saying? The ratios are a little bit different. So that's the kind of information I'm telling about using. You tend to be, you don't process vitamin D as well. You don't process vitamin B12 as well. So what does it mean? If I don't process it well, it means I need more B12. You know what I'm saying? So that's what the type of information I'm telling that makes you genetic different. And so guess what? You need to do vigorous exercise, because that's what you're genetically programmed to keep you the most healthy, whereas somebody else, they need to be doing Zen yoga, very slow movement, or more resistance, or so that's what I'm talking about.
I'm in agreement. Certainly, I'm in agreement with those genetic strengths and weaknesses. I get that. So I think it's a good idea. It's just it's interesting that I kind of. But it's more fun than necessary, because if you're eating a nutrient-dense anti-inflammatory diet and you're living a healthy lifestyle with reduction of stress and good sleep and efficient exercise, you are going to do what your body needs to do. Our primal ancestors never knew the difference between macronutrients and a McDonald's hamburger. I mean, they just didn't know the difference of those things. They ate when they were hungry. They stopped when they were not hungry. They drank when they were thirsty, and they did not drink when they were not thirsty. And they didn't say, oh, I need to have 8 glasses of water a day, which is not necessarily true. You drink when you're thirsty, you eat when you're hungry. If you're not hungry for breakfast, don't eat breakfast. If you're not hungry until dinner, then wait until dinner.
Yes, got it. So, well, we could sit here and we could talk all day. However, I really thank you for giving information. I always like to use some things that are happening to me. Here, use me as the case study. That's what it's about.
I love it.
Use me as the case study.
And I love your energy. I love your energy.
Well, I appreciate it. And, you have to tell us one more thing before we leave.
Yes.
If we want to find dentists who are more holistic, we're going to go to, and they're going to give us advice that we can feel good about, because it's not going to be just drill, fill, and bill.
Right.
Where do we find those type of dentists?
Okay, so here's some organizations they can look up on the internet and put their zip codes in, and they'll find dentists in their area. So there's an organization called the Holistic Dental Association. There's another organization called the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. There's another one called the International Academy of Biological Dentistry and Medicine. And there's a fourth one that is interesting. It's called the Academy of Biomimetic Dentistry. Those four organizations have dentists that are part of these organizations that promote a healthier way of doing dentistry.
Okay, Biomimetic, B-I-O-M-E-M-I-T-C, spell that?
Almost.
Biomimetic.
It's B-I-O-M-I-M-E-T-I-C, Biomimetic.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And anybody that has a question for me, they can go to my website. It's drdananberg.com, drdananberg.com. And by the way, I have a book that's coming out July 15th called Crazy Good Living. It's going to be published by Electra Press, and I'm real excited about it.
Wonderful. Dr. Al Dananberg, thank you.
I love this.
For the information. I appreciate it. We'll have to have you back on, because I know you're a wealth of knowledge in all kinds of areas. And, anybody who has questions they want to ask about dentistry, send them to me, send them to drveronica.com in my contact form, and, click send, post it on my Facebook page, and we'll bring these wonderful people back to give us more information, because this is what we do, life purpose. Thank you, Dr. Al Dananberg.
You're very welcome. It's been fun. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the Wellness Revolution podcast. If you want to hear more on how to bring wellness into your life, visit drveronica.com. See you all next week. Take care.